The issue of mental health care in America is something that comes up quite a bit, but it doesn't seem like anyone ever really does anything about it. And now more than ever, it's important for public figures to share their issues with mental health and also kind of normalize the idea of going to see a therapist. Well, whether you like her or not, whether you think she's talented or not, Katy Perry has done something that I think is pretty courageous. She has done a live stream of regular everyday activities, but more importantly, she decided to live stream a session that she had with her therapist. So to be completely honest and full disclosure with the audience, when I had first seen headlines about her live streaming random things that she was doing, I thought that it was just a publicity stunt, there was no value to it, but I thought that streaming her therapy session and kind of opening up about some of the mental health issues that she's experienced was really important. And I wanted to kind of not only applaud her, but kind of share a little bit about her story. So she actually grew up in an extremely conservative household, a household of born again Christians. And when she grew up, she decided to move to Tennessee to pursue her music career and kind of, break out of that very strict household that she grew up in. And so, of course, you guys know she became a big star, and there was a huge upside and a huge downside to that. And I think that it really had some negative impacts on her that she's addressing now, and she's trying to get better. So the hour-long discussion that she had was with the host of The Therapist, a reality show about mental health focused on Perry's self-image. The singer described how she felt caught between two personas: the pop superstar known as Katy Perry and a person embodied by her given name, Katheryn Hudson, known to her close friends and family. So during this session, at times Perry told the therapist that she battled alcoholism. That struggle led to suicidal thoughts and inspired her song, By the Grace of God. But the singer said that she felt ashamed about her thoughts of self-harm. Okay, I thought that was so incredibly important because on one hand, she comes out to the public as Katy Perry, this strong woman, this opinionated woman, this superstar. But behind the scenes, she's battling demons, she's battling thoughts of suicide, and she feels ashamed that she feels that way because people don't really understand or even know who she really is. Ben is drawing faces on his paper right
you're
now.
writing Katy Perry.
Suicide.
Actually, I was writing was Kate Hudson because her name is Kate Hudson.
Oh, we were both wrong.
Interesting, yeah. But go on, I don't want. I'm totally paying attention. I'm into this story.
So anyway, she says during her therapy session, I feel ashamed that I would have those thoughts, the thoughts of suicide, that I'd feel that low and that depressed. And also, she's been going to therapy regularly for 5 years. Look, this story for me is not just about Katy Perry. It's about the fact that you have a public figure who's coming out and sharing one of the most personal things that she's ever gone through that I think a lot of people relate to but feel scared to talk about because there's so much stigma associated with it. And I don't know, I feel grateful that she's talking about these things, because I know I can relate to it sometimes. And I don't know. Anyway, you guys talk because I feel like I'm rambling.
I had mixed feelings. I found it strange that your mental health session is being hosted by a reality show therapist. I found him really strange. I watched the session, and it just calls into question, right? So I understand her struggle between this public persona and the private person, but then where does the private person come into play if even your private moments are then public, right? So it almost feels as if you are inviting folks into your struggle, right? So I feel like if you are invested in self-care, and I can't tell anyone how to take care of themselves, but it seems as though this might be counterproductive. And there were moments in the session where she would say something and then go back and go, but I don't mean this, because she's aware that people are watching and they might take something out of context. And that to me just seems problematic.
Yeah, it could be potentially problematic.
Those are really interesting points, good points that I hadn't thought of, because it's one thing to talk about your issues like thoughts of suicide and depression. And obviously people are interested in Katy Perry's life. She's enormously talented, they're justifiably interested. I'm not knocking her celebrity in any way, but actually seeing the session, that's strange. And that feels like something that, I didn't watch it, but that feels like something that we're just not supposed to see. That just, in this incredibly open society that we have now, where everything is fair game, and Katy Perry will legitimately say, she doesn't have kids, right?
I don't think so.
But she would legitimately say, hey, what are you photographing me with my kids walking down the street? Why are you photographing my kids dropping, that you'd be like, well, you literally let us see your therapy session. Like, I mean, it is a very private thing.
Sure.
That said, my initial instinct was not that, it was closer to Anna's, which is that, and obviously, as always, of course, bring it back to Bruce Springsteen, but he wrote this unbelievable autobiography last year. I mean, this really seminal autobiography that people like me and other people who thought of themselves as knowing a lot about Springsteen, this guy was depressed most of his life and writes about it in this beautiful, eloquent, thoughtful way, and got through it. And his father was not just depressed, but had serious chemical issues and needed to be institutionalized. And then finally there was some degree of a relationship toward the end, but he grew up as a kid just thinking, God, my dad just flies off the freaking handle all the time. What am I doing wrong? And then it turned out his father was sick, right? And he writes about it beautifully, and it helps. There's no question that when someone famous who you respect, they're not Kardashian famous, they are famous because they earned fame in the hardest way possible, that they open up about things that are relatable to regular people like us, that is valuable. So I think there's huge value. And for Katy Perry, who has all these enormously young fans, and these, I'm just thinking about young girls who as I'm hopefully gonna be moderately prepared for having an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old, and this, as my daughter grows up and goes through all the things that, that I think are harder for girls to do, because there's gonna be more judgment on what they feel, where guys like, yeah, whatever, cool, it's cool, dude, whatever, it's righteous, man, hey, whereas, you feel, the days where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe my friend just took my picture. I never thought about that in my life. And women think, so it's just, obviously, I'm rambling, but there's value in Katy Perry doing this. I think it's curious that we got to see her therapy session rather than her writing about it, which would also get a lot of attention.
I think what she's trying to do, and by the way, the New York Times wrote a really great piece on this, and they did a good interview with her. And I think what she is trying to accomplish with this therapy session is to show people who she really is, like her authentic self. Because, one thing that she said that really stood out to me in that interview was, every part of Katy Perry is fake. She straight out said that. She's like, the awards I've won, fake. The persona I created, fake, right? I wanna be me. I want people to know who I really am. And this statement really, really hit home for me. She said that there's this strange race to be the most woke. They want you to stand for something, but once you do, and if you don't do it perfectly, they're ready to take you right down.
That's right.
And so she's constantly dealing with, the criticism of not being perfect. She's dealing with criticism of, how she cuts her hair, how she sings her songs, what she wears, and I think people unfortunately don't understand how terrible it really is to be a public figure, right? I think that—
how terrible it can be at times. Right?
It can be at times.
It's great.
It's mostly terrible. It is.
You think it is?
I think it's absolutely terrible, and I'm not saying that because I chose to do what I'm doing, right? Because I love the news and I love speaking my mind. But I feel like there is this added downside of, people always on you, and just assuming that they know who you are, and assuming that they know your intentions, and constantly picking you apart. It's actually the worst thing. So I appreciate that she's acknowledging that.
You just watched the video from the Young Turks. Did you know that there's a live 2-hour show every day, and that if you're a member of the Young Turks, you can get that on demand anytime you want without ads? Plus the post game just for members, plus Aggressive Progressives, plus Old School, plus so many other network shows. Go right now, tytnetwork.com/join.